Hello and welcome to Women Who Heal. In this episode, Amy shares her life-changing journey through the Red Tent program. After moving across the world and facing deep emotional triggers, Amy found herself stuck in cycles of depression, isolation, and frustration. But when traditional methods like medication, exercise, and diet changes failed her, she discovered the Red Tent, a program that helped her reprogram her subconscious beliefs, build resistance, and reclaim her joy. Now, over a year later, Amy reflects on how the program completely transformed her thinking, self-worth, relationships, and career. If you've ever felt trapped by PMDD or self-doubt, this episode will give you hope, actionable insights, and the motivation to step into your own transformation.
Hi, I'm Natalie Ryan Hebert, founder of the Red Tent program for PMDD, and I'm talking today with Amy Coots, who did the Red Tent over a year ago, I think it is now. So just want to hear all about your experience, Amy. So where were you in your life when you came across the Red Tent program and for premenstrual dysphoria?
So I'd moved to the UK probably about, when was it, June of 2018, so 2 or 3 months before I worked with you. And so that in itself is a big thing when you're shifting your life, to the other side of the world, which I sort of had downplayed, I think. I think I'd really downplayed the enormity of that, as I tend to do with a lot of things that are enormous in my life. And I had been going through, not long after I moved there, I had been triggered by an event with someone very close to me in my life who'd been a friend and I'd been sort of romantically involved with. So not to go into too many details about that, but basically there was an ending of a relationship, in a sense, a friendship I'd had for 6 years, coming to terms with realizing that what I had invested, the investment was not returned on the other side. And feeling like I was sort of grieving a loss of something. So I was quite triggered at that point in relation to where my cycle was, having PMDD. And so I do remember prior to contacting you, I'd spent basically a week. I was between work, so I had 2 weeks off work. And one of those weeks I'd basically spent in my room in floods of tears, only really leaving the room to shower and to eat, and then go back and then binge watch Netflix. And I couldn't talk to the people I was living with. I couldn't even talk to my parents. I'd sort of shut them off. And so that sort of gave me a clue that things still weren't great for me, even though I'd moved to this other place and thought life might be greener on the other side. And so there was that. And then luckily I thought, well, I'm about to go away for a holiday, which I was, to Belfast. And so I was very excited to go over there and to learn a bit more about Northern Ireland and the history and all that stuff. And I remember just being a little bit unfocused. I was enjoying the trip, but I still had this thing in my mind and I still had this sadness. And I was still, picking the scab, as it were, and not letting the thing go. And it all came to a head basically for me when I was sitting at the airport about to head back to Brighton, which was where I was living. And I just remember almost having a meltdown in this airport. Like, everything around me was annoying me. I remember hearing someone chewing near me and I was just like ready to punch a wall. I was on the verge of tears. I was pacing the airport and I just thought, this is very bad. This is very bad. It's impacting on my life. I'd basically taken the same life I always had and had moved it, and I hadn't resolved what was really underneath, and this event had triggered me. And so I was sitting at the airport about to board the plane, and I got onto Facebook and I said, somebody help me. Who is this woman that helps people with PMS and PMDD? I need to talk to her immediately. And then somebody had put your name up and I was like, right, I thought I remembered that name, but I just couldn't find. And that's basically when I contacted you. I was sitting at an airport about to come back to Brighton from Belfast.
all that, we can go on holidays and think we can run away from the problems, but I'm still with me on the holiday, and all the stuff that's inside me is still here too.
Exactly.
So that's how you began with me, and good. But things get to a head, don't they? When you think, I just cannot do it. And everyone who sort of comes to me gets to this point where they realize, I cannot continue like this anymore. Yeah. And the realization I came to in myself, and I know you've heard me say this before, is that there's nobody coming to save me. And that feeling of, so it's going to have to be me, or I'm just left for the wolves. You've got to go, okay, well, save yourself then, because the doctors couldn't do it. The antidepressants didn't work. The birth control's not working. Supplements do nothing. Changing your diet, cutting out caffeine, exercising, doing yoga, doing Pilates, all the things that I had tried were not getting deep enough for where I needed to go. And I know you understand that too. So get to that point, and then the red tent appears. And and your group was actually the very first red tent that I ran.
Yes, I do.
So tell me about your experience in the red tent, which involves, there's a sort of a combination of rapid transformational therapy, which you're trained into, and metacognitive psychology, which is all about getting more presence and learning not to worry, really. It's all about learning that worrying doesn't serve you, and how to actually not do that. We all know worrying isn't helpful, but actually being able to not worry is easier said than done.
Yeah, it's funny in a sense when you say that whole, it has the opposite effect when you're like, I know I shouldn't worry, but then you worry that you don't worry, and it just becomes this whole other, oh no, I'm worrying again. Like, it creates this additional stress. That program was amazing, because you might remember me telling you that, so I had moved in my life before. So I'm from Brisbane in Queensland, Australia. And I had moved to Melbourne, and I remember trying to find a group or a forum, a support of some kind, and there just wasn't one that existed. And the thing was, I sort of had thought about, do I try and create one myself? And then I just sort of thought, I'm busy, I'm doing all these other things. I'd rather just join something that exists. That was my thinking at the time, rather than sort of creating my own thing. And then I sort of had a sense of this forum that I was on, and I hate to say this, but it just sort of felt like a bit victim-y. And I sort of thought, well, I don't want that either, because I've never seen myself, I make an effort not to see myself as any kind of victim, and I've been very self-reliant and independent. But I also knew I needed that support. And I thought, well, how do I find something that I feel is like actively moving me away from the problem, and not just sitting in this like soup, I suppose, of the problem with other people, if that makes sense. And so what I liked about what you were offering was that you had your own personal sessions with you to deal with things specifically related to ourselves, because myself and the other women, whilst we had similarities, of course, there were, I'm sure from your point of view, as you would know, you'd be privy to a lot more information, is we had our differences too.
Yeah.
And we came from different backgrounds and different living situations, and I was single, whereas other people were married, and some had kids. And so we had those things as well. But what I liked was, you could have a support group that gets it, but also wants to move forward and recover too. And so that's one thing I really liked. The metacognitive stuff, and this was, I do remember one particular exercise, which was the, you'll probably be able to explain this much more elegantly than I can, but it was the more observing the thoughts, but then putting the thoughts over there and imagining a chair in a room, and I'm going to put you over there. And that helped me a lot, because I am very much a person, this can really go a lot. And I think I've got a fairly good imagination, but I think it can also be a very dangerous place for me to live too long as well, because I do conjure up like worst case scenarios and stories in my mind around the things that are painful for me, such as this friend who was almost more than a friend. And so basically in that situation, I had all these thoughts of like, you're too much trouble, you're not fun enough, no wonder they'd want to be with someone else. And so I was building all these horrible thoughts, and I really did need to move them and park them and get them out. And even though I'm an avid journaler, Like, it just wasn't quite getting to the root of it. As you said, I'm a person who's done yoga, who's done boxing and personal training and tried to be social, and I eat healthy and I don't drink, all those things, but it wasn't really getting to this in here. It wasn't getting to dealing with the thinking. And so that's what I really liked about the group.
With the metacognitive stuff and the RTT combined, you see all these thoughts are popping up. Where are they popping up from? The subconscious. And in the subconscious, that's where your beliefs are. So you can park your thoughts all you like, but they're still going to keep coming up. So this is why you need the RTT as well.
Absolutely.
So the analogy I always use is that the rapid transformational therapy is like reducing the size of the waves, and the metacognitive psychology is making you a better surfer for whatever waves do come. But it's no point being a great surfer if it's this tsunami wave coming every month and crashing on you, because you've got no hope. So it's all well and good, this metacognitive training. It's so, so, so good.
Yeah.
But you also have to work on the deep beliefs and the programming that's sending up stuff like, that's because I'm boring, that's because I'm not attractive enough, that's because I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
No one's ever going to really love me. All men just leave me anyway. Whatever happens to be your box of pain being triggered by these current events. So,
It's interesting because I find that the metacognitive stuff, I use that more on a conscious basis.
Yeah.
Right? That would be something that if I sit and I have an irrational thought, I go, oh, is that really true? Or I flip the thought and go, well, no, that's not really accurate. Whereas, you then, it's like you need two systems at work in a sense, is like the RTT, and then also like the daily coping strategies of when you are conscious and living your daily life, and an event happens and you suddenly go, and then you go, oh. So that's what I think was helpful about it, is that, you were sort of dealing with both the conscious and the subconscious in that program.
It's been well over a year since you finished. So how, and I know you now work, you had to also before worked, you were doing RTT back then. So RTT itself, just working with RTT, I know is just constantly wonderful because you're getting that fantastic programming over and over again.
Absolutely.
When you're working with your clients, you can't help but change a little through being on the practitioner side too. But that aside, how do you feel the program changed your life or changed you?
Massively. I think that, the way I think is very different. And again, I was thinking about this morning, having a little bit of a chuckle to myself, because I might have told you this in one of the group sessions, is that I do remember when I was living in Brighton, sort of midway through the program, being on a bus and just going, come on, like, you so deserve to be happy. Like, this is just, I just remember like really getting a hold of myself and going, like, this isn't fair, this isn't kind, you're as worthy as anybody else of XYZ. Like, that was a massive shift for me, going, I can't live in this place anymore of feeling sad about this thing that I just can't change. Not as in the PMDD stuff, but like the situations that had upset me, I guess, the box of pain. I just didn't want the box of pain anymore. And it was a you could say, yes, it was the work, but I do remember in that moment, like consciously going, I was going to throw this box of pain out, because I remembered, not that I ever forgot really, I guess remembered is the wrong word, is that I looked around me going, I'm in this lovely city, and I just deserve to enjoy my life. Like, when did I get to that point where I decided I wasn't worthy of having a good life? And so that was a big shift for me. I put myself out there a lot more, and it's sort of this weirdly paradoxical thing, because I put myself out there more. I don't care so much about what people think either. Like, even though I'm more visible to people, I weirdly don't care if they see me or not. Like, it's sort of a weird thing. Whereas before I was a lot more bothered by that, but now it's like, this is what I'm putting out. I believe wholeheartedly in what I'm putting out there. Take it or leave it. That's fine. Yeah. It doesn't bother me anymore.
The thing that you learn in the red tent, and that sort of becomes your new programming, is my love for myself is the most important one.
Yeah.
Nothing I need to do to earn it. There's nothing I could ever do to lose it.
Mm.
My opinion of myself is the most important.
Yep.
And when you've got that and you believe that, that's why you can turn up and go, oh, well, so what if I don't have my makeup all done perfect, or my hair's all over, I haven't washed my hair. I can do a Facebook Live in my gym gear. I don't care.
Yeah.
And it's not that you don't care about people, but your opinion matters more, and your opinion of yourself's great. So you're kind of like so robust and resilient, I think. And I know that's a big change in myself too. I wouldn't even go on Skype with my family a few years ago. I'd be like, oh, no, I don't really want them to see me. I don't know why I wouldn't do it. Now I'm just on video all day long with people.
Yeah.
So something really shifts, doesn't it? Mm.
Absolutely. And my motto for the last year or so has been progress over perfection, because one of the issues that we worked on was because of how I felt like perfectionism was my default setting. Right, that person's not interested. I got to change or fix this thing because I'm not perfect enough. And so getting past that was a major thing for me. And I think another thing too, it's interesting what you say about, being visible to people. Again, I felt a lot of shame around being this way or having this sort of monster that appears every month. And so I hid that from a lot of people. But what's interesting about that is, even though I'm still a very private person and I still protect my privacy and I still think that's important, I did so Marissa Peer obviously does her newsletter, and I said, I'll put my hand up and talk about my experience in the newsletter. Well, I shared that on my private page with people, and people that I never would have thought to, and I've got a range of people like who are ex-work colleagues and friends from high school and all sorts of people. And I just put it on there and I said, look, if this helps one person, even though I still felt a bit uncomfortable putting it up for people to see, but I said, look, if this helps one person, then it will have all been worth it. And the response I got from that was astounding to me. And again, it wasn't about getting the likes so much, but it was more about just being authentic with people. And I find the more authentic I live, which is what I think that program gave me as well, is the more authentic I am, the more people seem drawn to that. And what was the most interesting thing to me was, and I didn't need people's validation. I was fine. If they didn't read it, whatever. It didn't
that's the irony in it all, isn't it?
The irony of it. Like, I put it out there.
When you know you're enough, suddenly everyone's drawn to you because it's that self-sufficiency. And it's your authentic self. So you're going to draw people to you who are in alignment with who you really are, instead of, here's my mask, which I hope is palatable to everybody.
Yeah.
And then they all kind of think, she's a bit snobbish, or she's so perfect, or she probably looks down on me. That's probably what others are thinking. And that the last thing you want is, but I just wanted you to be liked because I don't think I'm perfect.
Yeah. And that's
such
it.
And
that's it. And I'd been told on a number of occasions that people had found me intimidating. And I was like, really?
Yeah.
Do they not know that when I see a dog video, I well up? Like, it was very interesting the way I was perceived. And even though I'm still very much me, I wasn't like, I didn't like throw myself out completely and I'm just this completely new person.
No.
I wasn't afraid to go, well, and the funny thing too is that I was more accepting of other people's flaws or faults, I guess. I said that in inverted commas. I'm actually a lot more accepting of other people than I was of myself. Like, I can accept that you're not perfect in this way as long as you sort of own it and be like, well, I'm not great at this, or I'm struggling. And I'm very empathetic. And I suppose, to be a therapist, you need to be. But I think, and I was like, why do people find me unapproachable? Like, I didn't see myself as unapproachable, but I suppose maybe keeping up the facade of I've got it all together is what was sort of repellent to people. And what was the most interesting thing about that was I had a friend from high school, and we're not close anymore, but that's more just because of geography and life, really. It's not, there was no falling out or anything like that. She sent me a private message, which really astounded me. And she what was not who I was expecting it from. And she sort of, by just paraphrasing, was sort of said, "Hi, Amy, I read your article and I thought that was a very brave, courageous thing for you to do. And thank you for sharing that. I guess it just goes to show you don't really know where people are at or how they're feeling or what's going on." And I was like, wow, and I thanked her for that. And I said, well, that's really kind of you. I appreciate you reading it. And, thank you for taking the time to send me that message. And so I don't know whether that resonated with her personally as well. I didn't sort of probe any further, and it's not really my business unless she wants to share. But I was really surprised at the impact that had had. And and other people who surprised me that had read that as well. And so I think just putting yourself out there and being authentic and all that. And it surprises me that you say that you couldn't even get on Skype, because I wouldn't believe it, having met and worked with you and seen, your social media. So it's just amazing.
It's a big shift that happens. And I was going to say that, this, when you're authentic, when you're vulnerable and you share, people think, it frees them to think, I can, so we don't all have to be perfect. And the more of us show up and say, hey, I'm not perfect. And I've, here's what I've been through, and here's the things I'm still that still pop up for me every now and then. And I don't pretend when I'm working with women in the red tent that, guess what, I'm Mother Teresa now and I'm all healed. And it's a journey upwards, the spiral. You come out of the muck of depression, anxiety, but as you grow, you're going to always hit a new comfort zone, and you're going to have to push through that. And so we never really finish the journey, but it just gets better and better and freer.
It does. And I think, obviously one of the more obvious, outcomes of that program as well is, and I like to sort of liken it, tsunami is often a word that I use as well, but I would say that I went from a category 5 cyclone down to, like maybe a day of a storm. If you would look at me 2 years ago, and I think even my parents notice this the most, because I often check in with them and go, well, do you think I am different? They're like, oh, absolutely. And my parents are very honest people. They would tell me if I wasn't, but, they're like massively different to how you used to be. And it has to be the work that I did with you, because that was the only variable that had really changed. Right? I was still exercising. I was still eating well. I had moved to other places, but, which those things can be very destabilizing, moving to a new place, new job, looking, trying to make friends and all that sort of stuff. That's enormous. But the fact that I managed through all of that, it has to be the program that must have worked, because there's no other thing that could be, there's just no other thing, I don't think, that could explain it.
It just anchors you to love inside yourself. And that's what we need, because the second you've got that, you don't need to go look outside yourself for the approval that you're good anymore. You just don't. It's so pale in comparison to what you have inside of you already there. If you just get all the crap that's piled up on top of it out of the way and go, it's not, I'm not reprogramming anything, we're just deprogramming all the rubbish put on when you were too little to know better. I think that's the wonderful thing about RTT. It puts you back into that suggestible state, the same suggestible state you're in between the age of 0 and 7, where you do take in all your deprogramming. And second chance, which we don't all get. It gives you a second chance to say, you sure you're happy with the final program that you made when you were 7 years old? Well, now I'm 40. Not really. It's kind of clunky. It's like OS 1, and I'm got the latest iPhone. I should be on OS whatever we're up to by now, but not the first one.
Yes, exactly.
You
operating
want to
system.
Better operating system for who you are now, and you realise, it might have protected you once, like a hermit crab that says this shell's perfect for me, but then you grow and you get bigger, and suddenly the protective measures you put in place when you're little feel like a prison more than a protection, and it always comes to that, doesn't it?
Exactly. And I see that in the people I've worked with, and I had that recently, and that was the question I asked, was that, how is that serving you now?
Yeah.
Right? How is that, if its purpose was to keep you safe and in that shell, that might have been fine when you were a defenseless child. But now, like, can you see how that's actually a straitjacket in a sense?
Yeah,
it's actually holding you back.
Exactly. When you can see that, and in hypnosis, you are suggestible. You're able to give your mind better new suggestions that actually stick, and you can throw that old stuff out really easily. So yeah, it's a wonderful therapy. I'm so grateful, and I bet you are too, to have trained with Marissa.
Massively. Yeah. And I think it's even more important in this day and age of, compare culture. We've got Twitter, and people pile on there, and Instagram, and all these places where we are living in an age now where, yes, we are more visible, more exposed, but that also opens you up to greater criticism. It opens you up to looking at other people's lives. And so I think RTT is needed so much more now. I mean, in this age where, we are so much more on display, and there are so many more forces not designed. I mean, it's interesting. I was listening to a podcast and someone was talking about how Twitter originally was this place of like admiration, and I can like follow someone well known and I can tell them how much I respect them. And then somehow it got subverted and became this place of telling people that you don't like them and that they're this and that and the other. And it's so building resilience is such a huge thing, because you do have all these forces now out there, and a lot of carelessness. I call them keyboard cowards. But a lot of careless posting and attacking of people. And so building that resilience to go, you know what? That's a silly comment. I feel sorry that you wasted your time, your precious life and time doing that, being able to get that place of like, I don't feel your comments. If you're offering me something constructive, I'm going to give you attention and go, oh, that's interesting. But if you're just there just to try and make me feel bad, I feel sorry for you, because that reflects something back on you that needs addressing.
If you came across a woman now another female who was struggling, who was like you were maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, what advice would you give her?
I often get people who private message me about your program. Funnily enough, because they've obviously seen testimonials or whatever, and I say do it, because your life is precious, and not that I want to dwell or regret the pain that I went through for 10 years or whatever, but if you have the opportunity right now to grab hold and make a change, then absolutely do it, because the suffering it's just not worth it. It's just not. And, like you said, no one is coming for you. And I often use that mantra as well. And yes, what's happened to you is not necessarily your fault, but you have the power to change that. And that power lives within you. And there are people such as yourself who are there to help facilitate that. So by all means, like take the reins and go for it.
And it'll feel scary, because it's like, what if it doesn't work, and all this stuff will come up trying to make you think, but you have to be bigger than that and just say, okay, it's a leap of faith. It really is. But once you're on the other side, you just wish you could go back and make it happen faster, or just tell yourself, do it. It's just I think it's not with so much in life, but with this program especially.
But I especially want younger women to do this. I mean, if I had found you in my early to mid 20s, that would have been even better. But things happen in their own time, and obviously you were still at that time, you were still dealing with your own stuff as well. I remember us talking about this. But if you are a woman in your early to mid 20s and you think you might be suffering from this, get help immediately, because you don't want it to rob you of too much of a great life.
Partners of women with premenstrual dysphoria, they don't know what to do, how to fix it, how to help. So definitely. And there's so little about the menstrual cycle other than kind of the very scientific, that they don't cover the emotional side of it. They don't cover the seasons within the month that we experience, and how the different hormonal shifts can be taken advantage of. But you can learn, where's the best time for this? When am I when do I need to take for myself the most? When have I got more energy to give? And to actually know where that is too. But you'll be so happy to know, you might be happy to know that I have an 18-year-old in the current program just finishing up.
Amazing.
That was so wonderful. I'm really, really proud of her. She's a very old soul, I imagine, because if I knew what she knew when I was 18, oh my gosh, yeah, she's very far along, and it all made sense to her, and she's come leaps and bounds, and her whole life is going to be so different. She'll be a different mother. She'll be, the partner she chooses to marry will probably be a different person.
That's brilliant.
Because she knows her self-worth is skyrocketed, her love for herself. So, so much in your life changes. It's not just about healing PMDD. That's what brings you to the program. You're in so much pain, but what you get is like, oh yeah, my PMDD symptoms have gone, but also I'm flourishing in my business. I've got my friends and my relationships are even better and more real and more, we have more fun. And I mean, so much of my friendships used to be about me just coming with all my problems. I don't have any problems anymore, really. And I know how to fix them really quickly. So now so much has changed in the relationships and career. If you can be more visible, then, you can grow your business much more if you're or even if you're in a workplace, you're more able to take things on because you believe in yourself. And so everything benefits because you're at the core of all of those things in your life. So if you know you're good enough, every area of your life is just going to be upgraded. So PMDD gets you there, but what it gives you. That's why I'm so grateful I had premenstrual dysphoria, because without it, I wouldn't have suffered enough to do what it took to heal. And that's kind of, I think, the message that I want everybody to know too. And
that was another thing I really liked about your program, is that I'd always, you flipped it into a positive, as in it was a gift to catapult you into change. And I'd never thought of it that way before. I was just like, I'm defective in some way. I'm cursed with this awful thing. It's never going to be any different. I'm never going to be who I want to be or live the life I want to be. I live the life I want to live. And interestingly, I do remember quite clearly you looking at it as, actually, it's this really nice thing that forces me to focus on, like the thing that you talk about as the box of pain. And I think that's the best way to describe it.
It's like the mud from which the lotus grows, and you need that mud. You can't really, I don't know of anyone who's ever kind of awakened or really, really become, and without something that's their trial by fire, their dark night of the soul. We've all had to go through something like that. And so that was mine and yours, and we all come out the other side if we're willing to face it all. So but thank you so much, Amy, for sharing your story so openly and bravely, and and I'm sure it will help far more than just one other person, you sharing today. So thank you so much, and
thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure.
If you found this episode helpful, I'd love it if you could take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your support helps us reach more women who might need this message of hope and healing. And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who could benefit from it, a friend, a sister, or someone in your community. You can follow me on Instagram at Natalie Ryan Hebert and at the Red Tent PMDD. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you there.